It was 3:15 a.m. I woke up to this awful screeching sound from above. It was like my neighbors, living one floor up, decided to have a full-on argument in the middle of the night. And this was just 4 hours before the workday started. I should mention the family living up there was, well, not exactly normal. The dad was always drunk, reeking of sweat and booze from a mile away. His wife was always causing scenes, breaking dishes and throwing things out of the window. And their son, who was in his 20s but had some special needs, would run around the building, pressing doorbells. It was his thing, and it seemed to make him happy. I got out of bed, grumbling under my breath, and went to the kitchen. I lit a cigarette, had a glass of water, and looked out the window. It was a warm, starry summer night, completely quiet. Of course, it was 4 a.m., so what else would you expect? But weirdly, after that initial screech, I didn't hear anything else. I threw my cigarette out the window and was about to go back to bed, hoping for a peaceful sleep before Monday. But before I could even close my eyes, I was jolted awake by a loud crash from above, like something heavy had fallen. The ceiling even cracked a little, and some plaster fell onto my bed. What the hell? I thought, rushing to put on my jeans. I really didn't want to deal with this, but I had to find out what was going on with the neighbors. When I opened the door, I realized the hallway light was out again. Guess the bulb blew. I grabbed a flashlight from the nightstand and made my way up. When I reached the floor above, I could see the flicker of light coming through their door. I hesitated for a moment, then rang the bell. No answer. I rang it again. Still nothing. Forget it, I muttered, about to turn around, when I noticed something strange. The light that had been shining through the peephole was now gone. Someone was standing on the other side of the door, staring at me. I froze. My heart started racing. After a moment, I decided it was better to just go back to my apartment. I turned around and started walking back to the stairs, shining the flashlight on the floor, but something felt off, like someone was still watching me. I almost wanted to run, but I told myself to calm down. There'd been weird moments with these neighbors before, and now some drunk guy was probably just standing at the door, doing nothing but trying not to fall over. But then, just as I stepped onto the stairs, the door behind me creaked open a little. I stopped dead in my tracks, and my heart started pounding in my chest. I slowly turned around and shone the flashlight toward the door. It was slightly open. "Is anyone there?" I called out, trying to sound casual, though my voice was shaking a little. No response. I stood there for a minute, debating whether I should do anything, but then I realized there was nothing to be done. I needed to just get back to my apartment and try to sleep. I quickly headed down the stairs, unlocked my door, and closed it behind me. Back in bed, I started to feel kind of silly. I was 27, an adult, but I was spooked by a bunch of drunk neighbors. I was about to drift off to sleep when suddenly I heard the doorbell again. All my calmness vanished in an instant. I got up, walked to the door, and peeked through the peephole. There he was, their son, standing in front of my door. One hand was on the doorbell, and the other was digging around in his nose. I opened the door. "What is it?" I asked, stepping into the hallway. He didn't say anything right away, but then he muttered something I didn't want to hear. "Dad." I looked at him. He was staring at the darkness down the hall, at the entrance to their apartment. "Okay, let's go," I said, grabbing his sleeve and leading him back. When we got close to their door, I noticed it was wide open. It was so dark inside the apartment that I couldn't see a thing. He stopped, looking into the darkness. "Dad," he repeated softly, and then to my horror, he said something that made the blood drain from my face. "Dad ate Mom." I froze. "What?" He started laughing. It wasn't a real laugh, just this weird, high-pitched giggle. I quickly turned and started walking away, heading back to the stairs. But just as I reached the first step, I heard a sound behind me. The sound of movement. I turned around, but no one was there. I didn't know if it was my mind playing tricks, but I felt a rush of panic. I quickly made my way to the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. I needed to get back to my apartment. It was the only place I felt safe right now. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, I heard footsteps coming toward me. Someone was moving quickly. I ran to my door, fumbling with the keys. My hands were shaking so much I could barely get the right one. Finally, I unlocked the door and slammed it shut behind me. But as I started to close it, I saw something I couldn't believe. A figure standing just a few feet away from me, blocking my way. I felt a wave of nausea hit me. The smell was unbearable, like something rotten. When I flicked on the light, I saw him clearly. It was my neighbor, but he wasn't the same. His face was pale, his eyes completely black, with no whites or pupils. His skin was almost transparent, like you could see the veins beneath. And he was covered in something dark, something like blood. His mouth was open, revealing sharp, bloody teeth. And in his hand, he held something, a severed hand. We stood there, staring at each other for what felt like an eternity. Then, he made a low growling sound like an animal, and I snapped out of my trance. I bolted to my room, slamming the door behind me and gripping the handle with both hands. From the other side of the door, I heard him scratching at the wood. His breath, loud and erratic, like he was trying to get in. I sat there, frozen, waiting for him to break through. But he never did. By morning, when the police arrived, everything was a blur. They found my neighbor's wife in a pool of blood in her apartment, and their son was... well, I don't even want to think about it. The police never found the man, though. I'm pretty sure he's out there somewhere, still wandering in the dark, and if his body wasn't found, it means he's still alive, and he's still hungry. And we already know what his favorite meal is. I rented an apartment on the first floor of an old building, and there was something about the place that always felt off. Nothing overtly terrifying, just a heavy atmosphere. The neighbors, a family I met on the first day, seemed like any other typical family. But soon, strange things began happening. At night when I went to bed, I could hear odd sounds from the neighboring apartment. Voices. At first I thought it was the TV, but as the days passed, the sounds became clearer. A high-pitched child's voice, filled with an agonized tone, and a rough, aggressive male voice. I tried to ignore it, but soon I realized something wasn't right. One evening I couldn't take it anymore and decided to investigate. I went out into the hallway and headed down to the basement, where there were rumors of an abandoned storage room that no one dared enter. The stairs creaked under my feet, and the air was thick with the smell of rot. In the basement, I noticed a door that wasn't on the building's plans. It was strange because no one ever mentioned it, even people who had lived there for years. I knocked, but no one answered. I opened the door anyway. It creaked as it swung open, and I stepped into a dark corridor with dim light at the far end. As I moved deeper, I saw old, worn-out toys, some broken, others seemingly burned. It was as if these toys had been left to decay, but there was something unsettling about them. Their eyes looked too lifelike. It dawned on me that this place was hiding something horrific. Then a thought struck me. I was standing right in the middle of something awful. I felt an eerie presence. Suddenly, from behind, I heard a faint laugh. It wasn't the laugh of a person. It was something otherworldly. I turned around and saw the toys starting to move. Some twitched, and one black doll jerked toward me. I barely managed to breathe through the terror, but something deep within me urged me to run. I don't remember how I escaped the basement, but when I found myself outside, I knew things had just gotten a lot worse. From that night on, I kept hearing the same voices. They wouldn't go away. The high-pitched voice would whisper to me at night, "You disturbed us. Now you'll be with us." The whispers grew louder, as if something invisible was following me, watching my every move. My apartment became a nightmare. The walls seemed to close in on me, and the air grew thick. Even when I couldn't hear the voices, I felt a presence. One night, I woke up to see a shadow in the corner of the room. It was so clear that I could make out details. It was the figure of a person, standing still, like a statue. It didn't move, but I knew it was watching me. The next morning, I packed up and decided to move out. But before I left, I decided to visit the basement one last time. I had to understand what was going on. I went to the door that led into the dark corridor again. This time, I was ready to face whatever nightmare awaited me. The door was open, and I looked inside. In the dark, I saw figures standing by the toys. These weren't just toys. They were faces. They moved, twitched, and their hollow eyes followed me. In the corner stood the same black doll with its cracked, but still alive gaze. That was the breaking point. I realized that these voices weren't just sounds. They were spirits, entities awakened by my actions. They knew I had disturbed their world, and now they were following me, tormenting me. I couldn't stay any longer, so I left. But even now, sometimes, I hear those voices, distant as if they're always near. I know they're waiting for the moment when I'll return to that door. And next time, maybe I won't be able to escape. Has anyone ever been in a situation like this? Well, here's the thing. It all started last week. But now I realize it was only the beginning of the nightmare. I live with 4 roommates: Jess, Lily, Dane, and Miguel. Lily is the one who, I'm almost certain, is dead, even though everyone else insists she's just pretending. And at first I thought it was just another one of her tricks. She's always been weird, quiet. Sometimes if she's overwhelmed or just doesn't feel like talking, she pretends to be asleep. We used to call it her playing possum. But now she's been playing possum for almost a week. Her eyes are open, but they're empty, like she's staring right through us, through the walls, through reality itself. Her face is grayish-white, with purple splotches spreading across her skin like ink stains. Her body's bloated, and I saw a fly land on her eyeball, then fly away, leaving something alive behind. Her panda onesie, which she hasn't taken off since last Monday, is now soaked in something dark and sticky. She stinks. It's not just a smell. It's something more. Something ancient and sinister. The stench of rotting flesh mixed with something sickly sweet that makes your stomach twist. The smell has seeped into the whole house, but for some reason, I'm the only one who seems to notice it. I'm sitting on the couch right now, writing this. Sitting here, staring across the TV room at Lily, who's still in the same chair where I'm sure she died. Her eyes are wide open, her body's swollen, her lips are purple, and her skin is starting to peel, like she's about to melt into that chair. But let's go back to last Sunday. On Sunday, we hit a cat. We didn't mean to. We'd all been drinking a little. I was driving. Dane was in the passenger seat, and Jess, Miguel, and Lily were in the back. The cat just darted into the road, completely black, like it had come straight out of the darkness. The thud. I felt something inside me twist. And then this old woman came out of the house. She was strange. Her eyes were too big, too bright, like they were glowing in the dark. She looked at us, at her cat, and she screamed. But it wasn't a normal scream. It was a sound that didn't seem to come from her throat, but from the earth itself. Lily told her she should have kept the cat inside, not let it wander near a busy road. The old woman looked at Lily, and I saw her lips moving, saying something in a language I'd never heard before. It wasn't words, it was a spell. I think that woman was a witch, and she cursed us. Or more specifically, she cursed Lily. Because on Monday, when I came out for breakfast, Lily was already sitting in the chair, in her panda onesie. I said hi, but she didn't answer. Her eyes were staring at nothing. I thought she just wanted to be left alone, but when I got back from work, she was still there, in the same position. "Lily?" I asked. No response. "Hey, Lily, I said I hope—" "Relax, just leave her alone." Miguel snapped, sounding annoyed because I was distracting him from his game. But something was off. She wasn't moving, wasn't breathing. Her body was starting to bloat, and the smell, that awful smell. I tried talking to Jess, but she said, "She'll be fine, it's just a cold." But it wasn't a cold. Lily was dead. And the more time passed, the worse it got. Her body started to decay, her skin turned slimy, her eyes cloudy. But my roommates, they acted like nothing was wrong. They talked to her, moved her body around like she was still alive. I called the police, but when they came, they pretended she was alive too. They checked her out, even talked to her, and left like nothing was wrong. I couldn't take it anymore. Last night, I wrapped her body in the panda onesie and drove her to the woods. There's a cliff there. I threw her body over the edge. But now something's wrong with Dane. He's sitting on the couch, playing a video game with Miguel. But he's not moving. His eyes are staring straight ahead. His hands are on the controller, but he's not doing anything. Miguel keeps telling him he needs to step up his game. But Dane's dead. I know it. Why am I the only one who can see it? Why isn't the curse affecting me? And what's going to happen when it does?